The race for Gauteng is intensifying ahead of this month's general elections. One of the Gauteng Premier candidates, Abel Tau, has promised the capital city's residents to address what he says is a crisis after crisis, ranging from health and education to service delivery. For more on these promises, I'm now joined by Abel Tau himself, Transformation Alliance Coalition Gauteng Premier candidate. Ntate Tau, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Katleho, for having us, and good evening to viewers at home.
Now, in your address in coming out as the Gauteng Premier-elect for your coalition, you name a number of challenges that Gauteng is plagued by. What would you say are most prevalent, and how are you looking to address those?
Look, Katleho, I think more than anything, Gauteng needs bold leaders. I think they need credible leaders. I think they need leaders who can really lead the people of Gauteng. We always say when Gauteng works, South Africa works. And I can tell you now, you have just highlighted an issue of crime in Soshanguve. And it's not the first. We've had similar incidences in Mamelodi, but the challenges are the same in Johannesburg, in Soweto, and everywhere else. And what is said is that if you look at what is on offer here in Gauteng from the incumbent right now, Premier Lesufi, who has been around when all of these things were happening and Gauteng was collapsing, to everyone else that is being put forth from the different parties, there's absolutely no man or woman who is fit, ready, and has the kind of capacity to take this province forward. And hence, for that reason, I believe that I'm better placed to take residents of Gauteng forward and to lead this province into a better province going forward.
And what's the how? How are you going to do that? How are you going to change economic policies in order to get Gauteng to propel in being that grand province of the country and of the continent?
Look, there's low-hanging fruit. I think in every space immediately there are things that you really need to change, that people can feel the change immediately. On the issue, we need people to get back to work. In the issue of jobs, there's really, the low-hanging fruit when it comes to that space, where if we use existing laws, we should be able to tighten a bit and be able to put South Africans to work. The amaPanyaza that we currently have right now, even as we speak, it's a duplication of the functions that the metropolis should be doing in the different metros. And therefore, with streamlining the functions between the cities, which is actually what province should be doing through COCTA, that it plays its oversight role and ensures that services get to be delivered there. So if you streamline the working between the two spheres of government, then you're going to release some capacity to be able to then turn them into an inspectorate. And that's what I'm going to do. I'll turn them into an inspectorate and go into these construction sites. There's many jobs in construction that are held by illegal foreign nationals at this stage, even at that. Your low-end jobs need to be, protected and ring-fenced for South Africans so that we are able to get South Africans to job. Even before we talk about the big stuff that needs foreign direct investment and all of those fancy things that we need to do. But also, we are bogged down by lack of political will. If you look at what's happening in Hammanskraal in Babelegi, there's been a tug of war between the Northwest Department of Economic Development as well as the city of Tshwane, which has not been resolved. The same is true in the corridor with Mega in Ikandastria, and you can name all these industrial zones where provinces and the cities are not streamlining the functions to ensure that they unlock those areas so that then people can get jobs. And that's where the problem is at. So we will definitely deal with those blockages to ensure that we then get our people to start working. We'll deal effectively with crime. I have always been on record to say we need to push more for the devolution of policing powers to the provinces, because then if I am the premier and we are given the space to be able to have a provincial commissioner of police that is appointed by the legislature in here, one, they account to us. Two, then if they don't do their job, then we can fire them. Three, if you, in a case like ours, you can budget correctly because you know the challenges and where you need to redirect these scarce resources, and you'll be able to then direct the resources where they are needed most and be able to respond accordingly. And I think these are the basics that really are not being put forth to ensure that this province works.
But really, if it was that basic, what do you believe is lacking? You mentioned political will, but if it was truly that basic, why are those that are currently in power not applying those basics and ensuring that the province works in a way it should?
The problem is people are detached with reality. The only time that politicians see communities is during this period, and they get to be shocked that people live in abject poverty, that people are unemployed, that there's all these ills, and that is why you find them washing, linen in little buckets with the people who have, because they really want to try to tell the people that we are with you. But the difference with myself and with us is that we find ourselves, rooted in grassroots communities. I mean, I have partnered in alliance with Forum for Service Delivery, who will be on the ballot right now. And if you look at the track record that we have in the Northwest where we govern and everywhere else where we are involved in governance, you have seen audit results improve, you have seen service delivery improve, and therefore, for that reason, we believe that we are better placed. We have been on the ground, and I think more than anything, myself, I have extensively worked in local government, the city of Tshwane, and I do think that that has given me an opportunity to truly be in touch with communities. And what I then have discovered is that the communities in Gauteng have similar challenges, and therefore they just need a kind of leader who truly understand what those are. And I think we are the ones who truly understand those challenges.
Well, South Africa is looking at a possibility of a national coalition, and it's also very possible at provincial level. Should it come to a point where you were to partner up, I mean, you're speaking of partnering with F4SD, who of the political parties that are currently in existence would you say your values are aligned to? And should you go into bed with them, who would it be?
Look, as things stand right now, we really want to do our best, and we are not going to sit here and say we are going to get an outright win or whatever, because we really need to be realistic. But I do think that one thing that we want to promise residents of Gauteng and South Africa in particular is that we are a party of governance. We are not in this to be in opposition benches, because you don't make a difference in people's lives when you are sitting in opposition benches. Therefore, once the dust has settled, we are looking at ourselves to say we have not pegged ourselves to say we will not work with this one or that one. But one thing that we want to be categorically clear about is that we will not tolerate corruption in any way whatsoever. Number two, we will not tolerate, politicking around issues that are very important. Therefore, whoever we work with would have to be someone who puts the residents of Gauteng and of South Africa first. It would be the values where we are looking at meritocracy, where only the best amongst us must be put to lead, not people who are there beholden to their political bosses, and that it's payback time. And finally, we are going to truly work with people who are committed to work for all South Africans. And therefore, it becomes very clear if there are parties that see themselves as working for certain sectors of society and not everybody, we're really not interested. At this stage, when you look at the problems we have in Tshwane, DA has created the mess that is in Tshwane right now. And therefore, they also are not people that can be absolved and say bluntly, we are going to be working with this one. So we are open, whether we will, when the dust settles, whether we work with the ANC or the DA or the EFF, we are going to look at saying who is best placed to, one, create a stable government that will not be chopped and changed every 3 months because people are moving sides. We are going to be disciplined in how we conduct ourselves in there, and we are going to push for people who are at the center going to put the interest of South Africans before everything else.
Gauteng is best known for its infrastructure. Truly, because for the economy to work in the way that it should, the infrastructure should be at its best form. How would you work in implementing policies that see a transformation and an improvement of this infrastructure of the province?
Look, I come from a very technical background, by the way. I'm a qualified diesel electrical fitter by trade, so that's where I started. And there's no magic when it comes to how things should function. Maintenance should be at the heart of everything we are doing. I think most of our ills, from the challenges that we have with water, water treatment in particular, whether it's in Hammanskraal or what you see happening in Sebokeng and everywhere else where we are failing, we have failed in maintenance, and we have hollowed out the capacity of the state to be able to respond to the challenges that we have. Right now, you have a situation where, I mean, everything is done through contractors and external suppliers. And that's what the biggest problem is. What would be the interest of a business person to fix something to last if they know that they'll be killing their own business? So they would obviously do makeshift work that would ensure that next time they come through again and have to redo the same job that they've been done. And this is what we've seen over time. I mean, the work that has been done over time has continued to to deteriorate over time. And what's even worse is that because of the hollowing out of the capacity of the state to respond to what needs to be done, we even now at a point where we don't even have people internally who can actually say this job has been done to a requisite standard, and therefore it meets the master of whatever test it is. And that is what we need to change. We need to bring back people who will ensure that state has capacity to be able. We need to bring back engineers. We need to make sure that public works actually does exactly that, public works. We need to ensure that potholes are actually filled or patched by employees of the cities in the different cities and in the province, in our case, by the province itself. But that's not what's happening. More and more we are reverting into a space where we are becoming a government that is only administrative and cannot do anything functionally, even to deliver its core competencies. It's not what we are doing. I mean, municipalities can't even pick up litter. What is the role of a municipality if they can't even do the basic of basics, that is to pick up litter, or at least have a fleet that they own, that they can be able to utilize at any given point and not spend as much, 2 to 3 times of what we are spending into making sure that we move people around just to do the basics. So this is what needs to change. And it can only change when you have individuals who've actually been in the system and understand where the failures are so that we can correct them.
Well, most certainly, Mr. Tau, people are watching, heading to the polls on the 29th of May. Many, like you, are coming and giving certain promises we'll only see after the elections once you take office and put all these promises into action. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having us. And once again, South Africa and people of Gauteng, please vote for Forum for Service Delivery and Abel Tau in Gauteng on the 29th of May.